Displaying hoops is a question I get asked about all the time. How do I display my hoops? And I'm going to do a whole video just on that. But for this video, I want to share how I hang my hoops if I'm keeping my project in the hoop and it's not coming out, and this is going to be how it's displayed. So for round hoops like this, it is very easy to just find a coordinating ribbon that you can just tie to the top of this hardware and hang it wherever you're going to hang them. So I hang hoops on gallery walls, but I'll also prop them on shelves. If I don't, I still will put a ribbon because I think it just looks pretty. But sometimes I just like hang them on a shelf. One like this that has a lot coming off of it, I wouldn't be able to do that. So I definitely need to hang this one. And hoops that have the hardware at the top are the easiest to do that with. But then what about oval hoops? So oval hoops have the hardware on the side. So it's not at the top of the hoop. It's just on the side, which works out fine. If you are just hanging the hoop this way, you can still do the same thing. Add a little ribbon to the hardware and you're good to go. But for this hoop, it's upside down. The project is a long and narrow project, and so the hardware is over here. It's also taller than the area that I have, like it's taller than the width of my shelves. So to just prop it on a shelf wouldn't work, but that does work sometimes with the smaller oval hoops. You can definitely just prop it on a shelf. The one thing to keep in mind is how heavy your hoop gets. It will always tilt towards this side because the hardware is over here. So when I'm stitching a hoop and I know it's going to be displayed vertically, I will think about the placement of beads and other elements that I'm putting on my hoop, just so that it's not going to be like hanging or wanting to roll almost to that side. But for this hoop, I need to think of another way to hang it. I've played around with a lot of different ideas, and this is the one that seems like it's going to work best for this project. So what I did, I have these two little sample bows here that I just made out of ribbon. This is the ribbon I picked up at either Michael's or Joann. It's easy to find ribbons. You can also find like lengths of ribbon at thrift stores if you like to thrift. I like to have little bags of, you know, discard ribbon handy that I can just use in little projects. But for this, I needed an actual length of ribbon. And so that is what I'm going to cut now. And I like to cut it longer than you think you might need. So I have a long length of ribbon right here, and I am just going to tie a bow just like this. And this is the part that, to get a perfect bow, you do need to play around with it a little bit. So I'm just taking two ends like this, and I'm going to just tie my little bow. And you can see it wants to be a little bit wonky at first. So I just like even it out. I'm sure if you wrap presents or do floral arrangements, you are probably much better at this than I am. But I just like to play with the placement of the ribbon, and then eventually I'll tighten it really tight and then pull the little tails too, just so I can get it closer to the shape that I want. And I do want it nice and tight for this part. Okay, so there's my ribbon shape. And I like to play around with it to make sure that it looks like this. The little ends coming off of it are both laying in the same direction. I'll trim the little edges just like that to make it look a little decorative. So I'm going to keep playing with this one and then do that. But that's my hoop, that's my ribbon. And then I just do the little cuts like that. But now to attach it to the hoop. Get rid of those little ends. Okay, so it's gonna sit up here. I'll move this little white one. I toyed with the idea of a white one, or it's kind of like a cream colored ribbon, but it took away, like it brings too much attention to this area. And I would like to keep this subtler which is why I opted with this color ribbon. So the next thing I'm going to need is a 12 weight thread, or just a sewing thread that matches the color of your ribbon. I like to use, this is by Wonderful Specialty Threads. It's Fruity, Fruitti, and it's a 12 weight cotton. I love using it because of the variegated colors, and so my thread isn't going to stand out against this project. And so now I'm going to just tie a little knot in my thread and grab a needle. Now before we do anything with this, we're going to cut another length of ribbon, which I did here, and I'm just going to move the ribbon out of the way. I've got an idea of where I want to place it. So we're just determining, I know I have more than enough ribbon. So I'm going to tie a little knot at the end. And it doesn't matter what this knot looks like because you're not going to see this. You're not going to see the knot. I had to do it, sorry. Okay, so this is going to go behind your hoop. And I'm just placing it right about here where I want to hang it. And I'm going to hold that there and grab my needle that I lost and I have to find. Found it. Okay, so again, this stitch, I have my needle threaded, and I'm just taking that thread through the knot, through the fabric, and to the front of my project, which sounds a little scary because you don't want to mess up your beautiful stitching that you've just done. And then I'm going to take it through, and I'm going to make sure that my needle is also going through the knot again in the back of the fabric. And so I'm going to flip it over and just make sure that it really is going through the spot that I need it to go through. And I think I'm going to do that like 2 more times. I'm going to go in the same exact spot. I'm coming out right around the same area. Now these stitches are going to be covered up by the bow, so that's why I'm not super worried about them. And I'm just trying to keep them tiny and make sure I'm feeling the back that my needle is definitely going through into the same knot again. So you want it to feel secure. You want it to feel like if this were hanging from this, that it's not going to fall off. And this is a very lightweight hoop. It doesn't have a ton of beadwork. If you have a hoop that has it's very heavy with beadwork, you'd want to have a few more knots. This one is being sent to a trade show, so I know they're going to need a way to hang it, and so that's why I'm just making sure it's really secure and they're not going to have to worry about it falling down during the show. So I'm going to do one more knot. And then now that this knot is secure, I'm going to bring it through to the front one more time. And then we're going to grab our bow. So the bow I made out of the same ribbon because, again, I don't want it to detract from the project. I kind of want this to just subtly hang here and not be super noticeable, but also look pretty when you do see it, because you are going to see it. And so I'm going to take my needle through the back of my bow, just place it on there. This has the added benefit of it's really securing the bow in place. It's not going to come untied because you're now stitching it together. And I'm going to take just a small stitch, just a small stitch down through the back again. Make sure I'm coming through my ribbon on the back. That one kind of missed the knot, so I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, now it's coming through the right area. Okay, so then you just want to look at your ribbon. You can see I caught my ribbon in the thread here, so I'm just going to undo that. It feels like you're working with lots of fiddly little parts right now, and you are, but it's not going to fall apart because you do have things secured on the hoop. Okay, so I'm going to do like 2 more little stitches, and then I'll show you how we can hide that thread if you want to hide your thread. If you don't, you're not going to do anything. But let me finish this up. Okay, so now we're going to pull out some beads. And again, you don't have to do this part. If you are happy with your little bow just the way it is, then leave it that way. I have these really pretty flower shaped beads that have like a nice shimmer to them. And then I also have these little flower shapes. These are all, I can link them in the description. These are the Crystal Lane Glass Garden beads from John Bead. So I will link those, but I absolutely love them. And I'm going to add these to the top of this bow. So I'm going to take my thread down because I want this one bead centered. So I'm going to make sure that when I bring my needle up, it is centered on the bow. And again, all these little threads are going to be hidden now because these are some larger beads. So I'm going to take this flower shaped bead and I'm going to put that on the needle first. And make sure that it sits right where I want it to sit. Then I have another like crystally, very shimmery bead that I'm going to add on top of that. And then, because why not, I'm going to add one more bead. Now this is the little seed bead. So this is a size 8 check seed bead. Now this is what's going to secure everything together. So I'm putting this bead on the needle. Before I push it all the way down though, I'm going to take my needle through the other 2 beads to the back. And that is going to secure everything. Now I can go through that one more time just to make sure that it's really secured. And I think I might do that. And then I'll show you how well this works as a hanging tool for a hoop. So there you have it. This is what it looks like from the back. You could trim these ribbons if you wanted to. I might trim those a little bit shorter, but they're not affecting the project at all. And you can't see them from the front. And then here is the front. So this can hang with a hook, just like that. And it's nice and secure. I think it adds to the project. I think it's really pretty and gives like a nice decorative element up here. I also like how it draws the eye from this pink here all the way to the top. And the colors just flow through the project then. So that is how you can hang an oval hoop by the top and have fun experimenting with different ribbons. The ribbons that you use don't have to be this thick. There's much thinner ribbons. You can do a lot more beadwork up here to really like blend it in if you wanted, or you can just keep it simple like this. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and happy stitching!